Good evening. Welcome to the Danvers Conservation Commission meeting for December the 9th, 2021. We as a commission operate under the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Chapter 26 of the Town of Danvers General Bylaw, the Wetlands Protection Bylaw. After applicants have presented his or her requests and the board has had time to ask questions and discuss the project, we will accept questions from the audience. Because this is a public meeting, it is required by law that you give your name and your address before you speak. Although we may disagree on the issues raised, all persons present during this meeting are expected to be civil to all other meeting attendees. This includes the members of the commission, staff, abutters, concerned citizens, and property owners and project applicants. We also request that you confine your questions to the project and only as it pertains to the Wetlands Act. We cannot handle, nor do we have jurisdiction regarding such things as noise or traffic. All problems not related to the Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Danvers Wetlands Protection Bylaw must be taken up with the appropriate other boards. Moving on to the agenda, the first item is a roll call. Peter Wilson is here. Vanessa Curran?
Here.
Chelsea King?
Here.
Ann McGill?
Here.
Michael Splain?
Yeah.
First item on our agenda is a request for a certificate of compliance for 6 Yale Street, DEP file number 14-1314.
Here.
The applicant is Alan and Barbara Bowers. Are they here, or the representative is?
Yeah.
First item on our agenda is a request for a certificate of compliance for 6 Yale Street, DEP file number 14-1314.
Here.
The applicant is Alan and Barbara Bowers.
Would you like me to start again?
The representative is?
Yeah,
No.
just a brief for people at home.
So, small addition here. It was a 10 by 25 addition, and this is an as-built plan, and you can see it's 9.85 by 25.2.
Here.
So it was pretty well spot on. There was a small patio that was allowed here, and that was to be, I believe, a 10 by 5, and that's even smaller than that. It's 4.7 by 8.7. So everything is all completely stabilized. Grass is growing a long time, fence is put back, so we're just here to close it out. So, 10 by 5, and that's
Okay,
smaller than that. It's
Georgia, this
4.7 by
project has been
8.7.
inspected for
So,
compliance?
everything
There's
is
no issues
all
found.
completely
Everything looks good?
stabilized.
Okay,
Grass
just,
is
go to
growing a
the
long
board, see if
time,
there's any
fence is
questions.
put back, so we're just here to
Start with
close
you,
it
Ann?
out.
No questions.
Michael, any questions? Georgia, Chelsea, any questions?
No.
Vanessa, any questions, comments?
Nope, none here.
Okay, any comments from the public? Hearing none, I don't think I have any further questions. Because everything's gone according to plan, and you're here within the time frame, which is always good. So that all being said,
Nope,
if,
none here.
someone would like to make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance, we can move ahead. Hearing none.
I'll make a motion that we issue a certificate of compliance for
Everything's gone
6
according
Yale
to
Street,
plan, and you're here within the
DEP
time
file
frame,
number
which is always good.
14-1314.
That all being said,
Nope, none
motion's
here.
been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion to. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Certificate of compliance, we can move ahead. Okay, all set.
I'll make a
Thank you.
motion that we issue a certificate
Um,
of compliance.
Next up is a notice of intent for 3 Tibbetts Ave, DEP file number 14-13. We do not have a number. Georgia, is that correct? Is there a
I
second?
believe so, if they'll
All in favor?
agree.
Yes.
No number yet.
Okay, so obviously we will not be able to approve, but feel free to give us an overview of the project.
Yep. Again, Bill Manuel from Wetlands and Land Management here in Danvers. The applicant, Meg Kelly, is sitting right here in the front row. She purchased the house in July and is anxious to do a renovation on the home. It's quite aged. I think it was built in the early 60s. And various parts of the structure have been added on, like this piece back here was kind of scabbed on later on. It doesn't have a foundation under it, nor does this half of the building have a foundation under it either, so it's reached its past its prime, and it's time to put a new renovated structure on that property. So there's a lot of, it's a coastal area, and there's quite a few resource areas. It's on the Danvers River, it's right on the river. So there is a fairly large concrete seawall across the width of the waterfront. It's functioning as a coastal bank. So there is a little, it's a coastal area, and there's boat launch right here, concrete ramp boat launch. On the Danvers River. There is flood zone. The land subject to coastal storm flowage is elevation 10. There is marsh across the road as well, so basically, I don't think it's any surprise this part of Tibbetts Avenue, in large storm events, the entire site is underwater. So the entire site's in land subject to coastal storm flowage. There's a little bit of salt marsh. This little triangle of land here is sparsely vegetated with some Spartina alterniflora, which is subject to daily tidal inundation. So the salt marsh basically comes up to there. Across the road, there is also some salt marsh just under where it says Tibbetts Avenue. I actually got permission from the property owner across the road and put up 5 flags over there that were marking the upper limit of, you could call it salt marsh, some may have called it just a narrow freshwater fringe of Phragmites, but that's basically what I was doing, is at the toe of the road embankment of Tibbetts Avenue. That's where the Phragmites started. And of course, offshore here we have, at low tide, we have exposed mudflats. And with the river, we also have riverfront area, so the entire site's in riverfront area. So I want to draw your attention to the plan, and really want to draw your attention to what you don't see on the on this plan. And what you don't see, you typically with a new owner, a lot of times they tear it down and they have the biggest footprint that they could fit on the property. And that's not the case here. We worked very closely with Meg, and between the architects, Meg and I, we worked very closely and counseled regarding your stringent bylaw regulations. And we've actually gone through a few iterations. We talked about attaching this garage and various other things. But what you don't see is a massive house footprint. What's going to happen is this is going to get rebuilt on the same footprint. Because of the substandard foundations, we're going to have to basically take it down to the ground level. This part here, which has no foundation, and this part here, which has no foundation, it's not supported on columns, that will get a new concrete foundation, and then we'll begin building up from there, and this will be a 2-story home now. So rather than expanding out laterally and taking up more of the yard area and the frankly very level, good building area, we're going to go up. That is the best alternative to do it. And by doing that, we comply entirely with respect to the house structure with your new regulations. The other things we need to do is, the usual stuff along the water. We have this concrete seawall. It's generally in good shape. It has a cement parge over it, and it's cracked in some places, and that needs to be reparged. The boat launch here, which it is licensed with a Chapter 91 license, that needs repair and resurfacing, so that is going to be repaired in the same footprint. This existing deck here in blue typeface, that's going to get a little bit bigger, and that's the subject of a waiver I'll discuss with you in a little bit.
Excuse me, Bill, that's the deck there.
This feature here with some steps. So the current deck is tucked right into this little side here. Existing deck here in blue. And the other thing I should point out too is from the boat ramp all through here, this shed is going to be gone, but all through here, underneath the deck, and all the way out to the street. That's all pavement and concrete right now. And all of that, up to this point, is coming out. So we are presenting a plan that has a reduction of 953 square feet of impervious area on the site. That's fairly dramatic on a lot like this. There's only, I think, about 7,000 square feet on the lot. And we're taking away nearly 1,000 square feet of impervious surface. So the work, you've seen it 100 times before. We need to do a little bit of excavation to put these new foundation sections in. This house will now be compliant with the state building code for working in a flood zone. So it will have flood vents constructed into the new foundation. It's presently, the living space is presently elevated above the flood zone, so, and so will the proposed conditions. We don't have to worry about that, but we are adding those flood vents. Removing all this bituminous, repairing that boat ramp. We show erosion control across the back of the yard here. And you can see that's pretty tight to the work zone here. We did that intentionally. We wanted to restrict machinery and foot traffic and disturbance away from the seawall so that everything is nice and tight to the work zone. If you scroll up a little bit, Georgia, so I could see the Tibbetts Avenue side of it, we show the same thing here across the front of the property, with the exception that this area here is across the existing driveway. Obviously, the workers need access to it. So it's a mulch sock type erosion control barrier, and that can be moved off the driveway during the day for access and then replaced at night if we get a gully washer or something at night. So even when they leave the site at the end of the workday, the site is completely buttoned up. If you would scroll to the tables on the right side of the plan, keep going. Your bylaw has restrictions on how much encroachment you can do in your in the 35-foot no disturb zone and the 50-foot no build zone. And I'm happy to report in both of those cases that we have a net reduction of development in those areas. At the end of the day, we end up with a reduction of 593 square feet of impervious surface or structures that would require a building permit in the no disturb zone. So we're certainly compliant there. Likewise, we have a reduction of 230 square feet of impervious surface or structure in the no build zone. The part that we do need a waiver for, while we're here, the riverfront area, there was only 370 square feet of new riverfront disturbance on this because we're working in the same footprint of the house. I didn't even account for working over the existing deck structure, but this number is so small in relation to what's permitted that I just threw it at as a gross number to you. We're allowed 10% or 5,000 square feet of impact in the riverfront area, and we're obviously well underneath that. So, Georgia, would you mind going back to the plan view? So this deck is what I need a waiver for. And it extends out over the existing deck. A portion of it encumbers the existing deck footprint. There is 247 square feet net increase of deck in the, some of it in the no build, some of it in the no disturb zone. But it extends out over the existing grass. It's a flat backyard. It's already been developed, and it's going to be about 5 feet in the air. It will be a pervious feature, so the rainwater will hit it and just, go through the deck boards and percolate into the ground. So we are asking for a waiver for that out of this entire project. Basically, we're asking for a waiver of 247 square feet. And as I said, the net reduction of impervious is 954 square feet. I think that's fairly good justification and support for the request that we have. In my narrative, I've gone through and all the alternatives analysis, the analysis of compliance with the various resource area performance standards. I've walked through all the interests of the act, of your bylaw that are protected, and how this project and this particular deck is compliant with all of those interests and performance standards. I won't take up more time to go through there, but I took about 2.5 pages to accurately describe that for you. So we're hoping that you can see your way to granting the waiver for that deck, considering that everything would utilize the same footprint here and taking out just a tremendous amount of impervious area, dramatic improvement to the site. Accurately describe that for you. So we're hoping that you can see your way to granting the waiver for that deck.
Just one quick question, two quick questions. The garage is staying,
Yes, it is.
and the pavement in front of that will remain, right?
Yep, the pavement presently goes to here and goes all the way around back, but now we're gonna cut the pavement here.
Right, so all that beyond that, on the water side, will be gone.
That's right.
And replaced with lawn?
Lawn, yep.
Okay.
The pavement presently goes
Okay,
to
that's the questions I
here.
have, so let me just turn it over to the members and see what other questions or
And
comments they
goes
might
all the way
have.
around back.
And that's
but
probably
now
gonna be
we're gonna
as
cut
far
the
as we can
pavement
go, because we can't vote. So all that
Yep,
beyond
every
that
time there's a holiday,
will be
the file numbers get messed up. and-
You've seen it before.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Ann, do you have any questions?
It's a picayune question. I noticed, other site, we're replacing a boundary fence.
Every time
And what I wanted to know is what you're replacing it with. Is it another fence? Is it bushes? What is it?
No, we're gonna replace, it's an old fence here,
Okay.
and we're gonna replace it with a
I
new
noticed,
fence.
other
It most
site
likely
we're
be a shade-type fence, Meg?
Every time what I wanted to know is what you're replacing it with. Is it another fence?
Okay.
Okay, so it's gonna be a pretty fence. That's
No,
okay.
we're gonna, it's an old fence here,
Okay.
and we're gonna replace it with a new fence. It most likely be a shade-type fence, Meg?
I can jump.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
And the other thing is the work itself, I notice it's limited to low tide. When you're taking the concrete out, I mean, that's all gonna come out and hit the street. I mean, we're not gonna mound that up somewhere. It's gonna go right away.
Right. The offshore work is limited to low tide,
Okay.
and that is basically the boat ramp repair and the parging of the wall.
When you're taking the concrete
Yeah,
out.
and I've described how we're gonna
That's all
put
gonna
tarp
come out.
down on the flat for each work
hit the
session,
street.
so it'll
We're not
catch
gonna
any of that debris that's chipped
Mound
off.
that up somewhere. It's gonna go right away. Good,
Right.
thank you.
The offshore work is limited to low
Mike?
and that is
Yeah, what's the lot size, Bill,
repair and
approximately?
the parging of the It wall. was about 7,000,
Yeah.
and I
And,
described how we're gonna put tarp
where
down on
the-
the flat for each
Where
work
the
session,
proposed
so it'll
deck is
catch any of
going,
that debris
is it
that's
the
chipped
exact,
off.
is it replacing the same area of deck?
No, it's a larger deck.
How much larger?
The existing deck is about 123 square feet, and, well, your answer is 247 square feet larger.
Where the proposed deck is going, is it
It
the
shows
exact?
existing deck.
So
in there.
it's going to be the existing plus another 247 square feet?
Correct.
Much larger.
The existing deck is about 123 square feet, and,
And
well, your answer is 247
What's the nature of the
square
work
feet
on
larger.
the dock and on the seawall? So it's going to be the existing
There,
plus
on
another
the seawall,
247 square feet?
as I said, the wall is pretty sound, and it has a skim coat or a parge coat over it, and some of it's flaking away, so we're gonna reparge that.
Dock and
Where it makes
What is
the
that term? Could you explain that term?
parge,
Yeah,
it's like a skim coat of concrete, like a stucco, if you will.
okay.
And a
Well,
little
that's
bit,
not structural, then that's
skim
just
coat or a
for
parge coat
appearance?
that's
over
just
it,
normal maintenance for things along the water. Yep.
All right, and then is the work on the dock, is that
It's like a
structural?
skim coat.
The boat ramp you're
The
talking.
boat ramp, I mean.
That's gonna need, it's a little bit more extensive than the wall, but, you know,
Not structural,
it's
I mean,
going to just repair the ramp that's there.
Normal maintenance.
How would, could you describe what the repairs will entail?
And then is the-
Probably
I
put
mean, looked
some,
at that pictures, I mean, that boat ramp looked to be in pretty rough shape.
yep, they'll probably, put some gravel in there, some pack in there in the voids, and then pave over it. They might put some,
The ramp that's there.
um,
Normal maintenance.
not rebar, but, you know, the grid, the metal grid, and then the wire mesh, yep.
Yep, they'll
And
probably,
then drop some
put some
concrete on
gravel
it.
in there, some pack in there in the voids,
Okay.
and then pave
Mike,
over it. They
anything
might
else?
put
Yeah,
some,
is the structure a complete tear down?
not rebar.
The whole
but,
structure?
Except it's down to the foundation.
Metal grid.
And then you said that it's in a flood zone, so is that foundation designed for flooding?
Yep.
How does that work?
In these situations, because it's not a velocity zone, it's just an AE zone, we can accommodate the state building
down
code
to the
by
foundation.
installing flood vents into the foundation, so that if the water comes up, the vents allow it to go in. There's gonna be a concrete slab underneath the building. At high tide, the water will come in, and the vents will allow the water to go back out.
And when the water comes in, does it go out like across the street, or?
Remember, at a high tide, this entire neighborhood, this entire street is being inundated equally. So, yeah, the water is gonna come in and fill up the neighborhood and then go back out.
When the water comes
I think
in,
they've
does it
built
go
that
out
sort of
like across the
foundation,
street,
a couple doors up.
Yep.
Remember, at
But,
a high tide,
Just to clarify, Bill, I
entire
think you said
neighborhood,
that
this
it's gonna be a
entire
new
street
foundation,
is
so
being
the old
inundated
foundation is gonna come out.
Portions of it are gonna be new.
gonna come in.
This portion right here, because this was a scab on after the house was built, and so was this section, and so they were built on piers. So this section right here, and this section right here will be brand-new foundation. The rest of it, they're gonna utilize the
Portions of
existing
it.
So are there
foundation.
issues, this isn't really part of this, but are
portion
there
right
issues with the
here,
building
because
code as to
this
what,
was a scab
how much
on
you can
after
take
the house
down
was
before you
built,
can
and so
rebuild?
was this
I know they used to
section,
say
and
you
so
gotta
they were
leave a
built on
door, you
piers.
gotta leave a piece of the wall.
This section
It's not
right
that
here,
issue?
No,
right
I
here
believe
is
as long
brand-new
as we are
foundation.
building in the same footprint, we don't need any zoning relief. Is that right, Meg?
This isn't really part of this, but are there issues with the building code as to what, how much you can take down before you can rebuild? I know they used to say you gotta leave a door, you gotta leave a piece of the wall. It's not that issue?
No, I believe as long as we are
So some
building
walls
in the
will
same
remain, but
footprint,
they'll be beefed up.
right, Meg? No, I believe as long as
So some walls will remain, but they'll be. Okay, I guess the only thing I'm gonna give thought to is that you're increasing that deck it's gonna be 3 times as big, basically. Right?
Closer to 2.
Well, what
And
size
3.
is it now?
123,
And you
okay,
added
I'll give you
247,
3.
so
I'll give you 3.
36. Yeah, it's 3 times. That you're increasing that
But
deck.
3 times big on a small number is not a huge increase. It's only
I know.
120.
I just said I'm gonna give it thought.
Okay. Remember how small it is to begin with.
Well,
When you're thinking.
And I'd like to know when you get the number, how much of the impervious you're actually pulling up? Yeah, it's 3 times.
The net
3 times
decrease
big on a small
is
number is not a huge
954
increase.
square feet on the entire
I just said I'm
site.
gonna give it thought.
Okay. Remember how small it is.
So that's 3 times more than the deck increase.
I'd like to know
Yeah.
when you get the number,
Balance
how much
it.
of the
All right,
impervious
that's
you're
all I have.
actually pulling up?
Chelsea?
The net
What
decrease
materials are the deck
is
gonna be made out of?
954 square feet on the
I
entire.
don't know that we've got that far, but either a wood or a Trex or something, a composite type material.
Okay. I'm just, like a deck doesn't have to necessarily be impervious, right? Like, because water can run through
Water
slats
will
of
run
wood.
through this stuff.
Are you gonna have concrete under it, or? No? Okay.
What's gonna be under the
I
deck?
don't know that
Is
we've
it
got
gonna
that
be
far,
crushed
but
stone
either
or?
wood or.
Usually they
track
put
some
crushed
some
stone, 'cause
type
nothing
of
can grow
composite type
there.
material.
So you're going to represent that the
like a
deck
deck
will
doesn't have to
allow water to
necessarily be
pass
impervious,
through
right?
and
Absolutely.
percolate into the ground.
Water will run through this.
Are you gonna have concrete under it, or? And also, okay, so all that, pavement that leads to the boat ramp is gonna be turned into
Usually they
lawn.
put crushed stone, 'cause nothing
Correct.
can grow.
Do you anticipate that boat ramp getting a lot of use? Just 'cause like, I don't see a very, that's gonna be difficult to get like a boat trailer through between the house and the garage. And also, okay, so
What do you
all
think?
that,
Like kayaks?
pavement that leads to the boat ramp is gonna be turned into lawn.
Correct.
Do you anticipate that boat ramp getting a lot of use? Just 'cause like, I don't see a very, that's gonna be difficult to get like a boat trailer through between the house and the garage. Okay.
She raises a good point. If it's gonna be lawn, what kind of boats are you bringing into the boat?
Do you anticipate that boat ramp getting a lot of use? Just 'cause like, I don't see a very, that's gonna be difficult to get like a boat trailer through between the house and the garage. Okay.
She raises a good point. If it's gonna be lawn, what kind of boats are you bringing into the boat?
Oh, yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, I was just wondering because I was trying to picture like how would you get a trailer through there? Okay. I think that's all I had.
Did you consider that, Bill?
What
What,
aspect are
in
you
your
asking?
meetings? Did you consider about whether you'd be bringing a boat in?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, in our discussion,
All right.
we weren't
Yeah, I
gonna
was
be
just
trailering
wondering 'cause I
boats
was
there.
trying to
It was
picture, like, how would you
more,
get a
it's a
trailer
feature
through
that's
there?
licensed and
Okay.
it's existing and
I think that's all I
we
had.
certainly
Did you
didn't want to
consider
give
that,
it up, but it was more gonna be for,
What aspect
kayaks
you
and that
Yeah,
sort of
perfect
thing.
for kayak.
Consider about whether you'd be bringing a boat Okay. in?
Yeah,
Well,
that's all I had.
In our discussion,
Okay, all set. Vanessa, any questions?
or it's a feature that's
You guys have covered mostly everything. I just have a question of
give it up, but it was
what is
more gonna
that
be for
structure that's indicated on the plan? It's to the, yes, right where the mouse is on the, where Georgia has her mouse right now.
Yep.
It's like to the left of the tree,
Vanessa,
along
any
the,
questions?
river side of the property. You guys have
Those
covered
are
mostly
steps,
everything. I just have a
or like
question
a
of
ramp through
What
the
is that
seawall. During the boating
structure that's
season, there is
indicated on the plan?
a
It's to the-
seasonal ramp
yes,
out to
right
this
where the
float.
mouse is on the,
So that's a sort of a
where Georgia has her
pathway
mouse right now.
to
It's like to the
ramp.
left of the tree, along the.
Okay. So is that going to be resurfaced as well?
You guys have
Those
covered
are-
mostly
if it needs it.
everything. I just have a
Or
question
like a
of
What is the
ramp
surface now?
through the
is
seawall.
that
Concrete.
During the boating
structure
season,
concrete
there is
there.
a.
And is that a boat ramp as well?
right where the
No,
mouse is
it's
on the-
foot
That's a
traffic.
sort of a
Where Georgia has her
pathway
mouse right
It's
now.
like
It's like to the left of the
steps.
tree, along the.
Okay. So is that going to be resurfaced as well?
You guys have covered
If
mostly
it needs it.
everything. I just
Okay, I don't think I have any additional questions.
concrete.
Okay, no plans for a dock
No,
or a float?
foot traffic. There is an existing licensed float there now.
to the left of the
Steps.
tree, along the.
But no plan
So is
changes to
going
that or
to be
anything?
resurfaced as
Uh,
well?
if-
You guys have covered mostly
Not at this time.
Okay, I don't think I have any additional questions.
Okay, just out of curiosity, a low tide, does that sit on the mud?
It will, yes. There is an existing
in use now?
licensed float there now. Yes.
But no plan changes to that or anything?
It'd be pulled in now, right?
Not at this time. It's removed
I don't think I
seasonally,
have any
Where's it
additional
stored?
questions.
Okay.
right here on the ramp.
Curiosity, a low tide, does that sit on the mud?
It will, yes.
What's the size of that, Bill, if you know?
Let me scale it.
10 by 10, thank you. It'd be pulled in now, right?
It's removed seasonally.
Okay, any questions from the public? Sir?
What's the size of that, Bill, if you know?
Sir, could you come to the microphone, please?
Peter, you gotta identify yourself. Even though we know you.
It's removed seasonally.
Okay, any?
Yeah, I go by the site all the time. Pete Clement, Danvers Mooring, town meeting member. I go by the site all the time. What it is
Sir,
a
can you come to the
little
microphone,
cove.
Peter, you gotta identify
This is on the inside of the cove.
Even though we know you.
And during the winter time, you're gonna have to move that float out of the way. So when you were asking about the boat ramp or whatever, You need that to bring the float I go by the site all the time, because it ices up in a little cove, so.
When do you need to move a float? Is there a deadline to get it out of there, or is that just
It's
a
really not,
peril?
but you don't want it frozen in. You don't want to see them freeze in. So when you were asking about I move an awful lot of floats in Danvers
When is it typically done, Peter?
from where they are out.
When do you need to move a float?
November.
Is there a deadline to get it out
Yeah,
of there?
I hate
or
to
is
tell you,
that
I'm
just
late
a
this year,
peril?
pulling floats out. But if you were to take a ride down river, you'll see all the gangways up and everything else. The floats just aren't moved yet. The weather's been brutal for me this year for that. But, yeah, you gotta move them out of the way or else they'll ice in. I hate to tell you, I'm late this year.
Okay, thank you.
But if you were to take a
Anything
ride
else?
down river, you'll see all the gangways up and everything else. The floats just aren't moved yet.
Bill,
The weather's been brutal for me.
are you all set, Bill?
Yes, I am.
Okay, we're gonna have to continue this. But right now, we are tentatively scheduled to skip our next meeting on the 23rd. So are you agreeable to waiting, to continuing until January 12th? Is that our next scheduled? Okay, we're gonna have to continue this. But right now, we are, okay, tentatively scheduled to skip. Is that our next meeting?
That would be wonderful if a draft of the order of conditions could be prepared for the 13th. The only thing we're waiting for is the file number, and that way
Right now, we
it
are,
wouldn't
okay.
push us off too much.
Yeah, as long as your plans do not change.
You haven't asked me for any additional information, so the plans won't change.
And I mean, we'll have to vote on a waiver and all that that night, but is that possible to have that, so we can just sign it, they'll be on their way? Okay, good. So I think the first order of business is we have to continue, actually the only order of business, I'm sorry, is to vote to continue this public hearing until January 13th. Is that possible? So if someone can make a motion to that effect?
I make a motion that we
Okay, good. So I think
move the
first
3
order of
Tibbetts
business
Avenue
is
DEP file incomplete, but 14-13, to the January 13th meeting continued. I make a
Motion's
that
been
we-
made, is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we will see you
Tibbetts
again
Avenue.
in January 13th.
you
DEP
next year.
file incomplete,
Hi.
14-13, thank you. To the January 13th meeting continued.
You're welcome. Next order, next item on our agenda is continued public hearing for 69 North Street, A&R Lot 4, DEP file number 14-1369. And you are, sir?
Yes, good evening, Thor Akerley from Williams and Garages. Here representing John
Next
Hernandez.
order, next item on our agenda is continued public
Can you
hearing
speak up
for
to the microphone?
69 North Street,
A little closer, is that better?
Lot
Yep.
4,
Yeah.
I can hear
file number 14-1369. And you are, sir?
Yes, good evening, Thor Akerley from Williams and Garages. So are we doing the
We are-
subdivision or the
it's-
A&R?
We're on, first, we're on Lot 4.
Can you speak up?
To the microphone.
A little closer, is that better?
Yep.
Yeah.
File number 14-1369.
This one okay, Thor, is this?
You are, sir?
I think we had a colored version, but so are
Um,
we doing the subdivision or the A&R? Should be fine, there's not much going on here.
I think it may be, by the time I pull up the color, you may be done with your.
I know. Is that better?
That's right.
So the commission may remember that this was a portion, not part of the subdivision, but one of, I believe, 3 lots along North Street that were proposed to be created through the A&R process. This was A&R Lot 4. From my conversations with Chris Barages, who was here at the prior meeting, there was no additional question on this specific lot. There was very little activity within the buffer zone. Solely the water and sewer utilities and driveway were proposed within the 100-foot buffer zone. It was a unique situation for this one because we had a portion of the driveway proposed within the 50-foot no-build zone. We had requested a waiver for that. I believe it was around 200 square feet, and most of that area exists, of course, the wetland is of course across North Street. A portion of it is already a concrete walkway, and then it's some lawn in between North Street and that walkway that's proposed to be altered there. Requested a waiver for that. So we believe the interests are protected in that regard here. And then aside from that, there wasn't really any other activity here. It was just those portions of the project that were within the buffer zone. And I believe the project was continued altogether in case there were any comments from other town departments. I would also like to say that I'm sorry for the subdivision plans getting to you all so late. So if you'd like, there's no pressure to close or on anything tonight. I know this is this is a separate filing, but I just wanted to apologize on our behalf on that.
Okay, well, yeah, we'll deal with that one.
I would also like to say that I'm sorry for.
So just to clarify, we will be required to issue a waiver.
There's no pressure to close or on anything tonight.
It's in the 50-foot.
I know this is a separate
And it's an
filing,
additional
but I just
200
wanted
square
to
feet.
apologize on our behalf on that.
Well within. Okay, yeah, we'll deal with that one. Okay, let me just turn it over to the members of the board if there's any other questions. So, Ann?
No, I don't have any questions.
Michael?
Yeah, for a little clarification, where is that lot located over the scheme of the entire property?
Okay, let me just turn it over to the members of the board if there's any other questions.
I want to see it.
No, I don't have any questions.
Michael?
Yeah, for a little clarification,
So
where is that lot located over the scheme of the entire property?
This should be lot 4 right here.
Okay, so we start, if we look at where Chatham Lane's gonna come in, and then going off to the right, you have the existing house, correct?
Correct.
And then there's a lot after that, and that's going to be a
This should be
buildable lot?
4 right here. Correct.
Okay,
These are
so
the
we start-
three,
if we look
1,
at,
2, 3
where
A&R
Chatham
lots.
Lane's gonna come in. So, is this part of this overall project, correct?
So this filing is just for, just a
there's a
notice
lot.
of intent filed.
In the end, I mean, we're really talking about going to be a buildable lot?
4 right here. Correct.
10 lots.
The
Well,
3, 1, 2, 3 A&R
This right
lots.
now,
Well,
we're
the
just talking about the little
subdivision and
driveway.
these are gonna be Part buildable of this lots. overall project?
I just want to make sure we're only talking
this
about
filing
this,
is just
just
for
this
just a
driveway
notice of intent
project,
filed.
not
In the
the,
end, I mean, we're
that's-
really.
that would be
I
a good
know, but
question
I'm
for the
looking at
next-
the whole thing because that's what I have on the plan.
The 3, 1, 2, 3 A&R
this
lots.
right now,
Well,
we're
the
just talking about the
subdivision
little
and,
driveway.
these are gonna be buildable. That's all I have for right
So
now.
Mike, why are you
I just
asking
want to make
about
sure
the,
we're only
the-
talking
This
about
filing is
this,
just
just
scheme of
this
the whole
driveway
project.
project.
Well, I just wasn't sure how,
Good question.
I mean, I go by here all the time, how this was going to be, that's what I have on the plan. In connection with the subdivision, so this is a separate project
Mike, why are you asking about
Correct. So
by a separate developer, I assume.
it is the same developer, and this is all currently one piece of land. Right, I don't know if this process has been finalized with these 3 lots, but these are all separate from the Chatham Lane project. So these 3 lots will pull frontage from North Street.
Right.
Right, so they're
Correct. So
independent of the subdivision.
They can go
It
right
is
to
the same
building
developer,
permit. They're in
and
the-
this
Well,
is
yeah,
all
I get it.
currently
So
one
that would
piece
make
of
them
land.
a
Right,
little bit
I don't know if this
faster than
process has been finalized with these 3 lots. These are
Okay,
all
that's it.
separate from the Chatham Lane
Okay,
project. So these 3 lots will
Chelsea,
pull
any
frontage
questions?
from North Street.
No, I don't have anything.
Correct. So
And Vanessa, any questions?
it is the same developer.
No, nothing additional.
One piece of land.
Okay, any questions from the public? Mr. Duggan?
These are
Okay,
all
that's it.
separate from the Chatham Lane
Okay,
project. So these 3 lots will
Chelsea,
pull
any
frontage
questions?
from North Street.
No, I don't have anything.
And Vanessa, any questions?
No, nothing additional.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matthew
Any
Duggan. I
questions
reside
from
at
the
41
public?
Chase Street.
Mr. Duggan?
This is agenda item number 3, so it's A&R Lot 4 only.
Right.
I had a question about, several meetings ago, there was talk about sewage pumps. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matthew Duggan. Does Lot 4 have one of those sewage pumps on it that might be This is, compromised agenda during a item power number 3, so outage? it's Is that A&R something that's Lot within the 4 only. commission's purview? Are you concerned about?
Well, first of all, I
There was talk
don't recall
about,
hearing anything about sewage pumps. And
Yeah.
secondly, I don't think that's
One
within
of
our
those sewage
jurisdiction.
pumps on it that might be
Stormwater thing.
compromised during the power outage. So that's a planning, maybe a planning board issue.
Yeah.
So what is your jurisdiction for lot 4 then? Can you just clarify that?
Because there's a wetland on the other side of the
Across the
street.
street.
Across the
Yeah,
street.
if you
So
look
the
at
part
those
of
colored
this
dotted
is
lines,
within
yeah.
the 50-foot,
Across North Street, next to the driveway for the army base. And that,
a lot farther towards Locust Street.
so that water that's in that, across the street, doesn't that go through this army, this US government
Those colored
drainage
dotted
easement?
lines, yeah.
I guess so, yes.
North Street. Just one last question. So that easement, I see that it goes through this storm tech retention system. Does it connect to the storm tech system?
I think you'll hear more in the next agenda item
Okay,
about
that's fine.
the easement
Okay.
in the stormwater, whatever the name of it.
Yeah, I'm more concerned with, really tonight, with the storm tech system. I'd like to understand a little bit more about how it works.
And that's the next item.
Okay, great, thank you.
I think you'll hear more in the next. Okay, if there's no further questions, I think what we want to do is close the hearing, vote on a waiver.
Yeah, I'm more
and then-
concerned with, really tonight,
What are
with the
issues
storm
with
tech
it?
system. I'd like to understand.
Okay, so the first motion that we would need is to close the public hearing on this particular lot.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for 69 North Street, A&R Lot 4, DEP file number 14-1369.
The motion's been made, is there a second?
Second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the hearing is closed. Now, the next item for us is to issue,
69 North
vote
Street,
on a
A&R
waiver
Lot
to
4,
allow the construction
DEP
of
file
the
number 14-1369.
driveway, a portion of the driveway within the 50-foot
Motion.
boundary, the
Aye.
no-build boundary. So if someone can make a motion to issue a waiver?
Is it, before we make a motion, can I ask a question about the driveway?
Go ahead.
Where's the proposed location for the driveway?
So if someone
And wherever you put it, you would need a waiver?
I believe it could potentially have been slid over a little bit, but it would still be within that, within the no-build zone, and we have utilities on the other side, and then creating a driveway that would turn. There's just not a lot of room to make it turn as
Wherever you put it, you would need a waiver?
instead of having a straight shot there.
How much frontage on that lot?
Potentially have been slid over a little bit, but it would still be within that, within the no-build zone, and we have utilities on the other side,
Yeah.
and then creating a driveway that would turn. It might be, there's just not a lot of room to make it turn. Individual proposed plot plan, Georgia.
How much frontage on that lot?
I don't think it would be shown on this. This is the,
Can we rough
within
scale?
the no-build zone, and we have utilities on the other side, and then creating a driveway that would turn. It might be, there's just not a lot of room to make it turn. Individual proposed. So 145.
145?
It would be shown on
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
This is the.
And how wide's the driveway?
Within the no-build zone, and we have utilities. I'd have to scale it. It looks to be about 12 feet wide, but I could get a better read on it if you'd like me to scale it. Individual proposed. So 145.
145?
Would be shown on
Yes.
this. This is the.
And how wide's the driveway?
I'd have to scale it. It looks to be about 12 feet wide, but I could get a better read on it if you'd like
Oh,
me
I
to
thought he
scale
was
it.
gonna give me a
No, he's
more.
waiting
Oh,
for you
I-
to ask him if he wants him to.
So 145. I said it looks to be about 12 feet, but I can scale it if that would be helpful.
No, you pretty confident it's 12?
Yeah, it looks to be 12, maybe 15 at most. But it's not, certainly not an egregiously sized
Okay.
driveway if that's the concern.
All right, thank you.
I said it looks to be about 12 feet, but I can
Any
scale
other,
it if that would be helpful.
questions regarding the waiver before we put it?
Yeah, my
forward?
only concern was, could the driveway have
Yeah,
been put
it looks to be
elsewhere
12,
and
maybe
not
15 at
require a
most.
waiver? And if so, you should have considered that.
But it's not, certainly
Right,
not
well,
an
that's part of the application
egregiously
process, they
sized
have to consider the alternative.
driveway if that's the concern.
All right, thank you.
I said it looks to be about 12
Well, I
feet
don't
back.
know, was this something that required alternative,
It's not in the
analysis?
riverfront
My
area.
concern was,
No, it did not require the alternative.
no,
Maybe
it's
15
up to us to,
feet.
you should have considered that.
But it's not, certainly
Right,
not
well, that's part of the
egregiously
application
sized.
So again, so it's 12 feet wide, and you're saying the driveway could not have been placed outside of where, outside of the no disturb?
No.
It is outside of the no disturb. It is partially within the 50-foot no build. It could have potentially been slid a little bit all the way to the right, but then you're battling utilities, utility poles, and then a driveway that's going to have to turn across your entire front yard.
Okay.
It is outside of the no disturb. It is
Thank you.
partially within the 50-foot no build. It could have potentially been slid
Any other
a little
questions
bit
before we?
all the way to the right, but then
No?
you're battling utilities, utility
All right, if
poles,
someone could make a motion,
and then a
if
driveway
there's-
that's going to turn
it's the will of
to
the
turn
board,
across your entire front yard.
to issue
It
a
is
waiver
outside
for
of the
this
no disturb.
particular lot?
It is partially within the
I make a
50-foot no
motion that
build.
we
It could have
issue a
potentially been
waiver
slid
Any other
a
questions?
little bit,
for 69 North Street A and R Lot 4,
utilities, utility
Right, if someone
DEP
could make a
number
motion,
14-1369, for
to
200
issue,
square,
a
an additional
waiver for
200
this
square
particular
feet
lot?
for the driveway.
I make a
motion
that we
Within
issue
the
a
50
waiver
foot.
within the 50-foot no 69 North Street A and R Lot 4.
Okay, motion's been made.
DEP
there a second?
number
I'll second.
14-1369,
All in favor? Aye.
for 200 square, additional 200
Okay, now we have to move along and issue an order of conditions. So if someone, okay, move in that direction, or unless there's other questions regarding that, now's the time to ask.
Aye.
And actually, no, it's not, because the hearing has been closed.
Okay,
Caught myself.
Okay.
Okay, so if someone can make a motion, we can proceed. Okay, move in that direction.
Did we have any
Unless there's other
special
questions
conditions to add, or is it
regarding
just the
that,
standard
now's the
stuff?
time to ask.
Like besides the waiver?
Actually, no, it's not, because the hearing has been. Not that I'm aware of. I mean,
Okay.
If there's any that anyone else has, now's the time to speak.
Then
Okay, so,
I'll make a
if someone
motion
can
to
make a
issue
motion,
an order of conditions for 69 North Street A and R Lot 4, DEP file number 14-1369.
Motion's been made, is there a second?
I second the motion.
And
Not that I'm aware of. If you- if
I'm
there's
sorry,
any-
Vanessa.
Anyone else has, now's the time. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
An order of conditions
Okay,
for
so,
69 North Street A and R Lot 4.
That is done.
DEP file number
Right, then
14-1369.
an order of conditions has been approved for that particular lot.
Thank you.
Second the motion.
Moving on to item 4, a continued public hearing on a notice of intent for 69 North Street, a subdivision roadway, DEP file number 14-1370. Just a little background for the members of the board. And Georgia just, moving on to item 4,
She can chime in and
continued
correct me if
public
I-
hearing. On a notice of Georgia, I'm just going to kind of give people a little bit of up to date on what we saw today, and what we discussed yesterday. On the subdivision roadway, I guess the planning board had several changes that they requested, and the consultant has made those into the plans, but the plans are only submitted today. So I'm not sure how much review has taken place, if any. And there was also an issue with an easement, and that had some effect on the stormwater, whatever you call that, the plan is a fancy acronym for it. And from what I saw in today's note, those plans were changed to move that whole system over to not, the easement would not be a factor with it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, that being said, if there's anything else you can add to that,
Well, didn't I, wasn't the applicant amenable to continuing that?
well, we might change that whole system over. Yeah, just for review of the plans. But like you say, just, you know, since you're here, whatever you can tell us.
Of course, and again, I do apologize for getting those plans in late. We did the best we could, but sometimes everyone's a little busy right now, and we've been especially busy. So with that, we did get comments back from the planning board and engineering department. Most notably, the
Of course, and again, I do
the town did not want the chambers located within the easement Georgia has highlighted there.
Everyone's a little busy.
And the reason being is that if the U.S. ever had
So
to
with
go in
that,
there
we
and
did
do
get
work
comments
to that
back from the
existing
planning board
drainage pipe,
and engineering department.
it would impact the
Most
integrity of
notably,
those
Of
chambers.
course, and again, I do apologize.
So we did slide those each a bit wider to be outside of the easement.
Has highlighted there. Everyone's a little busy.
As a result of that, an additional drain manhole was added above the top left section
It would impact
of the right
integrity of those
general
chambers.
grouping of
So
chambers.
we did slide those each a bit wider.
So there
be
are two
outside
sets
of
of
the
chambers
easement.
here on either side of the easement?
As a result of that, an additional drain
Correct.
manhole was added
above
the top left section it would impact
of the right. Yeah, so I believe that these were a little closer
before.
before, so they just got spread
So there are two
in either
sets of
direction. And of course, this is the 100-foot buffer zone here.
As a result of that,
Because these were spread apart, the engineering group did have to add a drain manhole here to get out of these
Yeah, so I
chambers
believe
and
that
then to
these were,
flow into the riprap area, which was originally a
they
bit
just got
closer
spread
over to the no
in either
disturb
direction,
zone.
and of course
So that
this is
slid a
the
little
buffer
bit
zone
further
here.
away. The
Because
drain
these were
manhole
spread
also
apart,
allowed us to lessen the
engineering group did have to add
steepness
a-
of the slope coming
drain
from the
manhole
drainage
here to
system, so
get,
there will be a little
out
bit
of
less
these
velocity
chambers,
coming
and
from
then
that piping
flow,
system.
into the riprap area, which was originally
A bit closer over to the no disturb zone.
So
There was
that's
also a
further
4-foot high chain link fence added along the top of the slope here per comment from the planning board, just for protection of the residents and anyone that's coming down the roadway. We were able to inspect the drain pipe.
also a 4-foot high.
Just as a note, the drain pipe that
chain link
comes
fence
down the
added along
easement,
the top of the-
well,
the
this is the
slope here
easement,
per
but
comment from the
it
planning
does
board.
exit the easement, I think, down here.
For
So we did get the
protection of
video
residents
inspected,
and
so
anyone
that
that's coming
pipe
down
is
the
now
roadway.
located a bit more accurately. But
we
as
were
far as
able
plan
to
changes go, the only
inspect
changes
the
were
drain pipe.
these,
Just as a
the
note,
drain
pipe
manhole, and
that
then
comes
sliding this
down the easement.
a little bit further to the right, as well as a fence at the top of the slope here.
So we did get
One
the
quick
video
question,
so
Thor.
that pipe is now
Now
located
that I
a bit
see
more
the
accurately.
easement,
But as far
that's
as
going
plan
right
changes
underneath
go, only
the driveway
changes
that we
were
just
drain pipe,
discussed?
these,
Is that
drain
a
manhole, and then
potential issue?
sliding this
So it's my understanding they're allowed
further to the
to
right, as well as a fence at the top
construct
that's exit the easement.
One quick question, Thor.
buildings and such
now
on
that
the
I
lot,
see
it just
the
can't impact the
easement
drainage system.
that's
The
going right
These were the
underneath
property
driveway
owners, I
that
don't
we
believe the
just
US owned this, but they
discussed?
purchased an easement
Is
from
that,
the prior property owners to
potential
install
issue?
that. So
So
the
it's my
property
understanding
owners
they're
were,
allowed to
retain their rights to
construct
develop the lot. But, so surface work here should not impact the integrity of that piping system.
These were the property
How,
owners.
how
I believe
deep
the
is
US
the
owned this,
pipe
but they
underground?
purchased an
I
easement
don't
from
know.
the prior property owners to install that. So the
Okay,
property owner
just
allowed, retain
curious,
their
I think, more
rights
than
to
anything.
develop the lot. But, so surface work here should not
Do you
impact
have
the
anything else?
integrity of that.
No, those are the only changes. Again, I know that these were given to you all very late, so we completely understand if the commission it would like to continue. And I'll also note that we haven't got formal approval from planning and engineering yet. We've just responded to their comments, so that's the status of
Do you have
the
anything else?
project.
And is that set
No,
for a
those are
future
the only
planning board
changes.
meeting?
Again, I know that.
I
these
believe
were
so, yes.
Given to you all very late, so we completely
Next Tuesday.
understand if the commission
Okay.
would like to continue. And I'll also note that we haven't
Okay,
got
let's,
formal approval
let's
from
just see if there's
planning
any
and
questions
engineering
from
yet.
members of the board.
We've
And
just
I'm just gonna
responded
change
to
the
their
order a little
comments,
bit and
so
let
that's
Vanessa go
the status
first.
of the project.
And is that set
No,
for a
those are
future
the only
planning board
changes.
meeting?
Um,
Again, I know that.
I believe so, yes.
Given to you all very late, so
Can you review again how the sidewalk works with that riprap area at the end of the cul-de-sac,
Okay,
please?
let's just see if there's any questions from members of the board. And I'm just gonna change the order a little bit and let Vanessa go first. And is that set for a future planning board?
So it's my understanding the sidewalk ends somewhere in
Can
here.
you review again how the sidewalk
believe
works
it's-
with that riprap area
or I'm
at the
sorry,
end of
it's
the
right here.
cul-de-sac, please?
And then it comes across down to here, but there is no sidewalk in here. This is just curbing.
So it's my understanding
And
the
then
sidewalk
landscape
ends
plantings.
And what is all that hatched
somewhere
area
here.
supposed to represent?
Review again how the
This is
sidewalk
riprap,
with that
so
riprap
stone
area.
stone
Sorry, it's
overlying
right here.
a slope.
And then it comes across down to here, but there is no sidewalk.
It looks like you've tried to keep the riprap
This is just curbing. So it's my understanding
out
the
of the
sidewalk plantings.
35, although it's extremely close in some places.
This is riprap, so
Correct.
stone overlying a slope. And then it comes across.
All right, I don't think I have anything else right now. It looks
Okay,
like you've
thanks.
tried to keep
Chelsea,
the
any
riprap
questions?
Just curbing.
No,
out
I
of
don't have
the
anything.
35, although it's extremely close
Okay,
in some
Mike, any
places.
Well, I think I'm gonna wait, I mean, if we're waiting for comments, next Tuesday, I think I'm gonna withhold my
All
question.
right, I don't think I have anything else right now.
The next
It looks
meeting.
like
Okay.
you've tried to keep the
Ann,
riprap
any questions?
Well, we had walked the
35, although it's
site,
extremely
and
close in some
Mike?
so it sounds like the stormwater infrastructure at the top, that gap there is that the only major change to the stormwater management as originally presented?
Yes, there were no changes to the actual design of the system. We just had to remove it from the easement.
Okay. So it sounds
All
like
right, thank
the
you.
stormwater infrastructure at the
And
top,
just,
that gap
one-
there was.
are the
is that
abutters,
the only major change to the
are there
stormwater
issues
management as
resolved?
originally presented?
I don't know the
there
full
were
status of it. I know
changes to the
Chris
actual
Barajas
design
met
of the
with
system. We just
one
had
of the
to remove
neighbors
it
who was
from
very
the
concerned
easement.
about drainage.
So it sounds like
But I don't know if
stormwater infrastructure
what the
just,
status is of.
gap there was
Okay, because I know there was some strong opinions the first hearing, and then Chris told us when we went on the site visit
I
that
don't know the
this
full status of it. I know
would
Chris
actually
Barajas
alleviate
met
some of those
with one of
concerns.
the neighbors.
Right, that's
who
what
was
he
very
told me
concerned
for
about
tonight,
drainage.
as well, is that he
I
had
don't
met with
know
them
if-
and that they were happy, assuming they, took his word for it,
Okay, 'cause I know
because
there
obviously
was,
just looking at it, you'd
strong
think there'd be a big
opinions the first
impact, but
hearing,
from
and Chris
looking at
told
it
us
at
when we were
a
on the
closer
site
engineering
visit.
standpoint, he explained that there would not be a increased drainage issue for those
That's what
neighbors.
he told me for tonight.
Okay, and I think,
Could I just make a quick comment?
Sure.
Assuming that,
Commissioner Splain,
took his
if you
word
do
for it,
have
because
comments about
obviously
the plan, we would
you-
really
just looking at it,
appreciate
you'd think there'd be a
any
big
feedback
impact,
now,
but
so we can prepare
looking
things
at
for
it
the
at a
next
closer
meeting.
engineering standpoint, he
Instead of having to
there would
get
not
your
be
feedback
a
next meeting,
increased drainage
I'm not
if
waiting.
possible, and I understand it, if it's related to what we've changed,
okay,
that's okay.
Well, wait.
Could I just make a quick
well,
comment?
we're going to let the professionals
Commissioner Splain,
review.
if you do have comments about the plan, we'd really
But before we
appreciate
move on, I just want to see,
feedback
have there
now
any
so we can
questions
prepare things
from
for
the
next
public?
meeting, engineering standpoint.
Mr. Duggan?
Instead of having to get your feedback next meeting, increased drainage,
I'm not
if
waiting.
possible, and I understand it, if it's related to what we've changed,
okay,
that's okay.
Well, wait.
Could I just make a quick
Well,
comment?
we're going to let the professionals
Commissioner
review.
Splain, if you do have comments about the plan,
Thank you, Mr.
Before we
Chairman.
move
Matthew
on, I
Duggan,
just want to see, have there any
41
questions,
Chase Street.
from the public?
First, a
Mr.
comment
Duggan.
about, from Mr. Sparagus willing to meet the abutters, and specifically the house at the very top there, 9 Pentucket. So at the one of the last meetings, I asked that he would actually contact the abutters and speak with them. But what he did was he invited them to his office in Middleton to show them paper. I think what the residents were asking for was to have him come to them so they could show Mr. Sparagus the impact of that property on them today, and then to make sure that it wasn't more intrusive or more detrimental after the project is completed. And that didn't happen. So, I think Mr. Sparagus really needs to make a better effort of actually meeting with the residents. In terms of this,
Excuse me one second. Dora, could you take that back to Chris? And just
clarify, because I was looking at the plans and I think they were just, the town just received them recently. This Storm Tech 3500 system, there was a break in it where the easement, the 20-foot US government easement goes through it. So it sounds like that somehow has modified the layout of the Storm Tech. Can you just clarify that for me, please? This Storm Tech 3500 system.
Sure, Mr. Duggan. So originally, see those two, the square on the left and the rectangle on the right?
It sounds like that somehow has modified the layout of the storm
Catch the
section
bouncing
plan.
ball.
Can you just clarify that for me, please?
Correct.
This storm
So those two sections of, you see the little mini squares there,
See those two,
chambers, those were
square
originally
on the left and
closer
the rectangle on the
together,
right.
and now they're just further apart to stay outside of the easement. That pipe is solely the, related to the drainage across the street that conveys
So those
water to that
two,
wetland.
sections of, you see the little mini squares there.
Thank you for that information. So on the plan that I have, it shows that the grids, those small squares, which are the chambers, it says that there are 54 chambers on the left, and then the larger grid size, 113 chambers. That information. So on the plan that seems like a very large structure. The grids, those small squares, which are the chambers. Can we kind of get a sense of what the square footage is for all the chambers? I'm trying to understand, and then I'd like to know what is the capacity in terms of how much water is this system designed to hold? I think that's important because it'll get to a point that I want to make later on about how that's going to impact the flow of water leaving the site after the system goes online. So what is the capacity? The size overall, square footage, and then the capacity. I think that's important because it'll get to a point that I want to make later on about
It's a good question, and Mr. Sparages will probably have to give you a better answer at the next meeting, but what I can tell you is that the project was designed in accordance with the Massachusetts Stormwater Management Guidelines, so all the additional impervious surfaces at the property are proposed to have a net zero impact on surroundings. So that water from the roadway is being captured, sent to these chambers, and infiltrated into the ground. Any portion of water that doesn't get infiltrated, perhaps during a large storm event where the chambers can't absorb it, is sent to that drain manhole you see coming off the top into the riprap sloped area.
The roadway is being captured, sent to these
Just
chambers.
one follow-up question to that, Thor. The chambers on the left side of the easement,
Doesn't get infiltrated, perhaps during a large
how do they
storm
drain
event where
into the
chambers
the
can't absorb it,
overflow?
is sent
So
to
those
that,
can
drain
overflow
manhole you see coming
through
off
that
the
piping
top
network
into the
that's
riprap
connected
sloped
to
area.
the
So
other
they
chamber.
would flow over to the right and then into the wetlands?
Correct. Mostly, they're designed to infiltrate, but, it's certainly possible during large storm events for them to overflow.
So those can overflow.
Mr. Sparages can probably give you a better answer than I can at the next meeting.
And this is the same system or similar system to what was just installed at the Smith School?
Correct.
You probably don't know,
Mostly,
but Georgia,
they're
is
designed to
that?
infiltrate.
We've also used,
certainly
they've also
possible during
proposed
large
another
storm events for them
development
to overflow.
that the commission
So
is.
those can
Okay,
overflow.
good.
Mr.
Thanks.
Sparages can probably give you a better answer than I can.
And when I go out to the Storm
This is the
Tech
same
website
system
and I
or
look at
similar
this
system
model,
to what
this
was just
MC-3500,
Correct.
You probably don't know, but
it's
Georgia,
quite the structure, or quite large. It's actually a large piece of construction equipment that is used to build it. So it seems like the containment is designed to maybe hold, I don't know, dozens or maybe hundreds of thousands of gallons of water. So this isn't a trivial structure, and the website says that it's designed primarily for parking lots. They build it underneath parking lots. So that kind of indicates the amount of water that can be sent into it at any given time. This isn't a trivial structure.
Well, that sounds like a positive thing, Matt, right?
Well, it does, but then it's gonna lead into my next point, and I don't know if you're gonna say that it's outside your jurisdiction, but this water, if you look at the plan, the whole site now with the change in the roadway, it modifies the watershed areas that are over on the left side of the property where the water goes over to Calumet. That water that goes there today will be rerouted into this area. So this acts like as a big trough into this wetlands area that's circled here with the red. And it actually carries over into the adjoining property there, the 9 Pentucket. This water that leaves this site at this area, this is it flows down into a, and I'm not sure if this is part of this application, but it's important to point out that it goes down into a property called 300R Locust Street. It's a 4.5 acre parcel owned by the town of Danvers. And that could be considered to be the headwaters for the Frostfish Brook. And so if we reduce the amount of water, I know there was talk earlier that the amount of water leaving the site won't be increased, but we also want to be concerned about decreasing it too much, because that will impact that critical resource area that's downstream. So there has to be some type of happy medium there, I think.
First of all, man, I don't think that this is the headwaters to the Frostfish Brook. That is more back behind the high school, that pond behind the high school on the rail trail. If you look at the topography, there's a high point between those two. This drains into, it's a wetlands down by, is it Holly Lane? I don't think. And then it crosses underneath the rail trail, and they say it goes out to the airport area. So I don't think it has any impact.
So I've walked the area, I've walked it, and it does go underneath the rail trail where the gas line is. And it enters, crosses Toomey Street at Wildwood, and then it goes underneath Wenham Street between Wildwood and Princeton. And then it parallels Princeton Street all the way down to the high school, goes underneath the fields, and it daylights across from the entrance to the high school and goes down along Mass Ave. So
that's not what we were told. We were told it.
Well, Mr. Sparagus says it goes to the airport and ends up in Beverly, but airport is much higher elevation. The water from the airport actually comes down from the airport to the high school. If you look at Trinity Street, that's where the water. So that's important. I point that out because that critical resource area, if it doesn't receive sufficient amount of water, it will just dry up.
Let me just ask another question, then Matt. If the water in its current state went down Calumet, where does it go after that?
Point that out because
it's going to get pretty much into that same drainage system.
I think I think one of the residents at 10 actually captures it with a sort of a drainage system that goes out to the street. But there won't be any water going that way now. It'll all be coming this way, away from Calumet, because of the roadway and the impervious surfaces that are along that.
But I'm just saying downstream, I think it ends up in the same place.
All right, well, I think we need to do a deeper dive on this retention system, because the town's going to end up owning this, and that means taxpayers are going to have this system maintained forever. So that's
is that the case? I mean,
if the developer wants the roadway to be public and wants it to be accepted, and that's something that town meeting does accept.
Is that on private property, though?
What?
Where that system's gonna be located?
Yes, but there would be an
How many different
easement.
lots does that involve?
It looks like it's on the A&R lots, and
Yeah.
I don't believe it's on the subdivision lots. But if the town were to accept that, they would need to acquire easements from those lots for access.
I know, and we need to know what kind of maintenance schedule would be
Yes,
involved.
but there would be an
And it
easement.
could be owners.
I think it's designed to capture the runoff that comes out of down that driveway at the Army base that goes down into where the barn is today. And it's also going to capture the water that's on this Chatham Lane roadway A or whatever it is. All that water that comes off of these impervious surfaces is going to end up in those chambers. So, we need to have, I think, Mr. King, the town engineer, kind of give us a better explanation about what his expectations are for how this is going to operate.
He has reviewed this, right?
Yeah, he's reviewed this, and not the plan that was submitted today. But he has reviewed the plans that were previously submitted.
As Mrs. Prendergast has mentioned, this system's been used on other subdivisions, but I don't think at this size. I think there's smaller versions of it possibly. But All right, well, that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
I guess I'd like to know if it's been used on private homes or, like you said, parking lots.
Right.
Big difference.
But just one add-on to that is that I think he's making quite a substantial investment in installing these. And the alternative is just an
I
open
guess I'd like to know if it's been used on
retention pond.
private homes or, like you said,
You know, with a neighborhood with small children is, you know, it's pros and cons. And I think overall, this is probably a better way to go about it. And like I said, he's making a substantial investment. The alternative is just an open install retention pond.
Treating the water.
You know, with a neighborhood with small children is. Okay, were there any other questions from the public? I think overall, this is probably a better way to go about it. This one's coming, like I said, he's making a substantial investment. We do. Okay, so I think my personal feeling is I think at least one member of the board is in agreement, is that since these plans were just received today, I think we would like to have staff review those and see what else comes out of the next planning board meeting before we vote to issue any order of conditions. And it's just an order of conditions, right? There's no waivers for this? Is in agreement, is that since these plans were just
I
received
believe
today,
the small
I think we
portion
would
of
like
riprap
to
that was in between the
have
35
staff,
and 50, that was something
review
at the
those
last
and
meeting, or
see
2
what
meetings
else
ago,
comes
that
out of
needed
the
to be
next planning
clarified.
board meeting before we
The
vote
work
to.
put in the actual riprap structures, and that
It's just an order of
teeny
condition,
little
right? There's no
portion, I
waivers
think
for
that's
this.
gonna have any fencing.
So we would need to vote on a waiver for that.
Small portion of riprap that was in between.
Okay, and the applicants are agreeable to continuing
Yes,
to January 13th?
sounds good.
The actual riprap
Okay. So if we could just make a motion to continue the public hearing, we will take it from there. Okay.
I make a motion to continue the public hearing for 69 North Street subdivision roadway.
Good.
DEP file number 14-1370.
Okay, the motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so this is continued until January the 13th. For old and new business, I think the only issue that we need to discuss, and George, you can tell me if I'm not right, is our next regularly scheduled meeting is the 23rd, but all in favor? No new applicants have come in. So this is continued until. So there's nothing, and we can also skip the 30th. For old and new business, I mean, on the 30th. So then our next meeting would be January 13th, right? Okay. Is our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Everyone have a good
Oh.
holiday, if I don't see you around.
Chelsea will bring her puppy.
Hey, Georgia, do you remember I asked about whether there's a map of all the waterways, and you said we'd probably all like one.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Oh, the streams in.
Yeah, where Beaver Brook, Phosphorus Brook, Crane Brook.
Yeah,
Because
that'd be
I've looked
very
at this
useful.
one in Google Earth numerous times.
I'll get it framed in my room.
And I've walked it too, so that's, I kind of get a good feel of the water goes there.
I think that's now more than ever, but yes.
All right, thank you for that.
Okay,
Beaver Brook, Phosphorus Brook, Crane
I guess before we vote to adjourn, I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays.
Get it framed in my room.
It's been great working with everyone this year, and looking forward to continued success in 2022. All right, so if someone can make a motion to adjourn, we will get on. I guess before we vote to adjourn, I just want to wish
I'll
everyone.
make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You too, Vanessa. Enjoy your holidays.
Yeah,
Thanks, you
Vanessa, wherever
too.
you are.
With those kids.
So long, Vanessa.
Bye, take care.
Thank you, you too.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You too, Vanessa. Enjoy your holidays.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Vanessa,
you
wherever
too.
you are.
With those kids.
So long, Vanessa.
Bye, take care.
Thank you, you too.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You too, Vanessa. Enjoy your holidays.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Vanessa,
you too.
wherever you are.
With those kids.
So long, Vanessa.